My name is Pete Cummings. It's a pleasure to be here with you, as it is to be here with my guest, Dave Ellefson from Megadeth and several other phenomenal musical projects. Dave, how are you?
Doing great, man. This is cool, isn't it?
It is kind of cool. You know, who would have seen the fact that even though we kind of had peripheral encounters over the years, that here we are in 2014. Are you an outdoorsman at all?
You know, I grew up in Minnesota, basically kind of out in the sticks, right? And my dad was never into outdoor stuff, so we had a neighbor friend, and he was the guy. He's the guy we went snowmobiling with, learned how to shoot guns, went hunting, and did all that kind of stuff. You know, I was fishing back where I grew up in the land of 10,000 lakes in Minnesota, of course. It was all bullheads and walleye. That was pretty much what it was. And as much as there's many lakes, supposedly all formed by the footprints of Paul Bunyan.
Right. Or Babe.
Exactly. As much as there's all these lakes, the fish were really small. So I'm interested in our guest tonight because these are real fishermen tonight.
Absolutely. And, of course, being on the road as much as you have been, obviously you guys got to find time to blow off some steam and stuff. And I know you guys have been big fans of like motorbikes and stuff and having some motorized fun. But what do you guys get a chance to do in between shows and on the road to kind of pursue those same pursuits that you enjoyed as a kid? You know,
once in a while, our big thing was skydiving. That's my outdoors. Get out the door. Right. That's for me. That was it. And once you like ride these little parasails and various things around, and down in like Rio de Janeiro, you see people like cliff diving and
jumping and all.
Yeah, and it's that's a whole other level. Personally, I'm a Scorpio, right? I'm a November birthday, so I'm good on the ground. That's why I think I love it out here in Arizona. Of course, we've got some fine, wonderful lakes out here, just beautiful. The topography here in Arizona there's just none better. When the plane flies into Phoenix for me, when I'm coming from anywhere in the world, coming into Sky Harbor Airport is just beautiful. So to me, the fishing, the outdoor, everything here is fascinating and very relaxing lifestyle, which is good for rock and roll to be able to take a night off.
As many musicians that I've met that are doing it professionally and stuff, they always seem to find that balance, getting back out in nature and going fishing or going hunting and having the opportunity to reconnect with nature, because it is such a man-made world, getting on a huge stage, being through a big PA and stuff.
Very much.
And you find that balance getting back into nature. What are some of your favorite spots here in Arizona?
For me, Lake Saguaro, just right up the street here, really, from where I lived. I've always, when I moved out here 20 years ago, I moved from Burbank to right here to Scottsdale. This has been my home. And to have that lake right there, to me, is beautiful. I went out on a houseboat. Our guitar player, Chris Broderick, is big into the houseboats, and he's into skiing. And, so he was talking to me about it, and we actually went out on a houseboat out on Lake Pleasant, and was really just a great experience. And it's a weird thing about being on the water, yet looking at this dry desert around you.
Yeah.
Right? It almost doesn't match up. There's something that's
It's surreal.
It is surreal. It really is. You feel like you're on a Hollywood set.
Yeah, which is exactly how we're feeling right now, minus the holly, minus the wood. And we're going to be back right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our inaugural episode of Rockfish here. I am Pete Cummings, your host here with Dave Ellefson. And two of our guests here this afternoon are John Murray and Josh Bertrand, professional anglers who are going to be taking part in essentially the Super Bowl of fishing, the Bassmaster Classic, coming up very soon here. Where are you guys going to be taking part in that?
The Classic itself will be at Birmingham, Alabama on Lake Gunnersville. It's a big lake outside of Birmingham and sort of the hotbed of bass fishing in the South.
So you've been out there a few other times. This will be, your 7th appearance now?
Yeah, they move it around. It's my 7th Classic. It'll be the first time we've competed on that lake. It seems to be, they don't ever come out west for these Bassmaster Classics. They're always from Texas to the east. But, it's a great event, a lot of fun, and it's, the one sparkling tournament that we have a year.
Now, what does that say about fishing elsewhere in the country? Is it just simply better down in the southeast? I'm trying to argue and try and get Arizona on the map here for great fishing, but it seems to be best probably in another part of the country, huh?
It's funny. I think fishing just has maybe a little bit bigger following if you go a little bit further back east. Out here, there's a lot of great fishing, some beautiful lakes, but, at the Classic, we're going to have a couple 100,000 people rolling through the expo and the weigh-in. And, you did something like that out west, you might not get quite that same following. But it seems like, they talk about, kids growing up in Alabama and Louisiana, Missouri, Arkansas, these kids grow up with a bait casting reel in their hand, and that's it's not quite like that out west yet.
Now, you're from back east, though, right, Josh?
Originally, the far east. Yeah, you bet,
right.
New Hampshire.
So what's fishing up in New Hampshire like?
It's funny. It's probably a lot like what you're used to, Dave.
Bullheads and
trout, walleye, pickerel, pike. There's some bass fishing for sure, but the South is
got a lot of trout up there too. I'm from Vermont, so I can definitely relate to the New England fishing vibe. That's where I started.
Well, ours is all the species of bass, which would be largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass. Those are the three that will be available on that lake. We want to catch largemouth bass. They are the biggest and they weigh the most. Ours is a total weight tournament, so some of the species like spotted bass, there's a lot more of them, but they don't weigh as much. So we don't target those as much. We'll catch them, but that's not what you want. So we're really targeting a specific species to catch the biggest ones to try to weigh the most weight.
So now, to walk us through this, I'm a rock and roll guy, right? I'm on tour buses and airplanes and rock and roll stages. So I come out to the classic. What is a day like? Like, what is the goal? Like, what is sun up to middle of the afternoon? Walk me through it, because maybe I want to go. Maybe I want to come out with you one day.
Yeah,
can I come out with you?
The one thing we're going to fight in Alabama, we go out at daybreak.
Okay.
I mean, when that sun's first coming up, that's our time.
So when I'm going to bed, you're getting up, basically.
That's right.
Okay, got
and
it.
it's
All
a
right.
totally different experience that way. So we're going out when it's cold. We fish an 8-hour day, usually sometimes 9, and so we'll have a specific time, 2, 3 o'clock, that we got to check back in.
Okay.
During that time, we try to catch the biggest 5 weighing.
Can you throw one back if it's little?
Yeah.
So you can just
6,
recycle through the fish until you get the most gross amount of fish.
Yeah, usually I always say I want to catch 5 and then I want to go for big ones. But you just catch as many as you can. Try to catch big ones. And you can do that in bass fishing. The beauty of the Bassmaster Classic is we do have a huge sports show going on during the tournament. So a lot of the families and all the kids and all that go to the sports show inside the Coliseum, see all the new products, all the new boats, all the great stuff. And then we have a weigh-in right at the end, and then we come through and just weigh our fish. And so most of the people are not experiencing our whole day out on the water.
Right.
They just see us when we weigh in.
So this is Rockfish. We're talking about fish and we're talking about rock and roll. What kind of? Do you guys listen to any tunes while you're out there? I mean, are you rocking it?
Or does it upset the fish?
This is like high impact sport here. This isn't grandpa out fishing. This is like you guys are on the edge here.
You know what? It is a lot more extreme than people might think. We're out there fishing hard all day. During the tournament, I would be willing to bet that most of us, myself included, probably aren't listening to music. But leading up to the tournament, we're on unfamiliar bodies of water all the time, and we get 3 official practice days to practice. And you're out there from first light till dark by yourself. Now, you're not allowed to be out there with anyone else. So the only way that I can pass the time when I'm not catching fish is listening to music. So I've got my iPhone out on Pandora, listening to stuff pretty much all day during practice.
So you guys are like the NBA players walking into the opposing arena with the headphones on, getting your psyche up and getting ready to catch. Now, when you only get a chance to catch 5 fish, what are some of the better spots on the water usually to find the fish that you're after, or is there any one specific area that you usually tend to grab the bigger fish?
It's funny how it's always relative, and that's what makes the guys that are really good at it. They've always got a knack for finding it, but depending on the season, bass, they're a cover-oriented fish. So, more often than not, if you're after largemouth, you're going to be looking for the heaviest cover, sometimes a little bit dirtier water. They don't like that real clear water. So going into a tournament or just going fishing for a day, if you're heading out to the lake, if you can look at a map and find the creek, the cove that's got the most stumps, grass, rocks, that's where you're going to want
most
to
hiding places.
Absolutely.
I'm guessing.
You bet.
So now, Josh, this is your first classic. So coming into it, you're next to a pro here who's been doing this he's very successful. Is it intimidating being around people like John who have been in this game for so long and know these little tricks of the trade?
Sure. And it's easy to let something like that get in your head. Any sport, as you're breaking in, I just finished my rookie season on the Elite Series, and I'll tell you, the first tournament, John was great. He took me under his wing. I traveled out there with him, and oh man, I had probably some silly questions for him throughout the whole thing, but I was freaking out the whole week. I didn't even enjoy the tournament because I was that nervous. And
as I'm sure John told you, there are no silly questions, just silly answers.
No, same to you, John. Okay, so you took Josh into your wing. You've come up through the ranks. You see the new guys coming in, right?
Well,
is it intimidating? Is it you welcome it? Are you up for the challenge? It is sport after all.
It is sport, but the beauty of our sport is we're really competing against bass.
Okay.
So it's not tennis. I'm not trying to beat the guy across the thing. There's a lot of mind games, but they really shouldn't affect you. Because it doesn't really matter what I do or anybody else does. When Josh goes out, if he figures out how to catch them and catches them, he's going to do well. And that's the biggest thing. That you keep that in mind. I'm fishing against those fish. Doesn't matter.
So you trash talk the fish, not your opponents.
Oh, there's a lot of guys that will do the trash talking.
And see, unlike it for me, we trash talk and they throw beer at us, right? And they, throw panties or whatever.
throw?
You don't get those kind of perks with the fish, I guess, right?
Well, what we get is people coming up and fishing our spot while we're there. We'll get guys that I actually on that lake a couple years ago catching fish every cast, and a guy goes, tomorrow I'm going to be starting here in my tournament. I go, well, what can you win in your tournament? He goes, at least $200. I'm like, well, I'm fishing for $100,000 tomorrow. You think I might be able to fish around here? He was there the next morning.
Would that be the equivalent of like a surfer cutting another surfer off to grab a wave?
That's it. Yeah, and Alabama is famous for that. There's a lot of people fishing. This lake, it's not going to be just us. The best lakes in the country are public waters, and there's not any private places where you can just go, oh, this is our lake. Now sometimes we go to places that there's not a lot of people. We'll go in the Louisiana Delta where all you're going to see is alligators and snakes all day, but a lake like Guntersville, there's so many people out there every day that you just get used to it, and really it's fair for everybody. There's a couple guys that people like to follow a little more. If you're a leader and if you're leading that thing, you might have a lot of guys on your spot the next day. You just got to hope that you get the right people behind you and let you fish and let you do your thing.
Now, do you have, like in golf, of course, there's always like, the drink girl comes by, right? Kind of freshen up the mood for the day. Anything like that? Is there like the drink girl boat?
There's a girl in a kayak with a cooler.
Just put a cheerleader, so to speak, right?
There's not much of it. You're at the lake, though, and I'll tell you, during the summer, sometimes you get a little bonus boat coming by with 6 or 7 girls with bikinis. And
so there are perks.
Oh, I mean, hey, depending on where and when, you might go all season fishing cold weather and nasty, and then the last tournament of the year, it's July and it's beautiful, and there's definitely some beautiful women around for sure.
Nice.
So
Awesome.
that's really reassuring to find out that not only in rock and roll, but also in fishing, you do have groupies. That's very encouraging. Perhaps I'll buy a rod and reel after we finish the show today.
True rock stars right here.
There's hope for us all. I want to thank our guests, John Murray and Josh Bertrand, for coming out here. And gentlemen, best of luck in the Bassmaster Classic coming up this year. I certainly hope you guys get your catch.